Hi guys, I'm the Siemens35 back with a shitty microphone. I figured I'd do a voice for this because I want to explain how this actually happened. Okay, so I kind of fucked up when I was editing this video, and for the first 8 minutes of the video, yeah, I know, it's annoying, I sound like a cyborg. Don't worry, none of the other parts are going to be like this because I caught on this mistake in part 1 only, so don't worry, it's only for this part, and it's only for 8 minutes. It eventually gets better, and you'll see why, but unfortunately, I did something in editing when I was trying to edit the video and the audio, and I actually looked at Movie Maker, and when I played an audio track of a video that I saved as an audio track, and I played it over the original video itself, like the actual video file on Movie Maker, it seemed that my audio was louder, but for some reason, during the final product, it makes me sound like I'm a cyborg because I'm essentially saying the same thing twice because of the way I edited the video and how shitty the edit actually was. So it's going to be annoying. Sorry. I would go back and fix it, but I am incredibly fucking tired, and I have been editing this video for so long, and at the time of this recording, I'm not done. I still have to edit back cover and 0.2. And that's going to take a little longer, so unfortunately, I'm just going to leave it in there. I know, I'm a dick, but don't worry, the pain's only temporary, and heck, you can just skip, like, the first, 9 minutes of this, and, you know, then you don't have to deal with it, or, I don't know, turn the volume down or something. I can assure you, due to the fact that I haven't edited the other 2 parts yet, it's not going to be there anymore, so, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but, you know, I hope you understand. And if you don't, well, shit. So, enjoy the video if you can.
Alright, Nomura. It's finally out. It's been out for a little less than a month. So, alright, let's get to it. New footage, Kingdom Hearts 3, come on. What are you going to show us? What are you going to show us next? You showed us an awesome trailer back in, 2015. You showed us that drive forms are back. Come on, you got to show us something. Show us something of Kingdom Hearts 3. That's it? That's it. What the shit? Hey guys, I am the Siemens35 and I'm ready to talk about a game that's nearly a month old. Regardless, I'm here to talk about Kingdom Hearts 2.8. So the reason I'm so late about this is because 1, shut up, 2, they're RPGs, 3, I have other things to deal with, and 4, shut up. I figured I'd go over it now because I actually do plan to talk about the Kingdom Hearts series sometime soon. Specifically sometime around near the end of the year since, 15th anniversary of the series and such. Also, the Sun and Moon video just does a minor update for anyone who actually gives a shit. The Sun and Moon video, I will most likely just continue the Pokemon retrospective. So, whenever maybe I think I'm going to do it around the time Pokemon Stars is announced, if it's announced, or if the next generation is announced, then I can just talk about my feelings on the generation as a whole. But anyway, enough about that. This isn't Pokemon, this is about Kingdom Hearts. Specifically, the new game that came out late last month, Kingdom Hearts 2.8, Final Chapter Prologue. So when I first heard about the game, I was in the same camp that everyone was in that I was like this. Where the fuck is Kingdom Hearts 3? I was pretty much like that the entire time when looking at footage of this game. But over the course of time, I knew I was going to pick it up. I knew I was going to. I picked up actually Dream Drop Distance on the 3DS before that, so I could get a look at what Dream Drop Distance was about. So that way I'd know what to do for the HD port. And I'll talk about my full thoughts on Dream Drop Distance later on sometime in its own video. I want to do what I did with the Pokemon retrospective where I talk about each individual Kingdom Hearts game and just make videos on all of them because honestly, every Kingdom Hearts game that I've played anyway and beaten, I can honestly just give its own video, but I'm gonna sort of, skim over it because, well, A, it's a game we already have, it's 5 years old. Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance is 5 years old. It doesn't feel like that long ago. But regardless, I'm going to skim over it because 0.2 is essentially... Okay, Kingdom Hearts 0.2, Birth by Sleep, A Fragmentary Passage, Anyway, for the rest of the time, I'm just going to call it 0.2. 0.2 is essentially a Kingdom Hearts 3 tech demo. So I'm going to mostly talk about that and talk about some of the stuff that I want them to fix, what I want them to change, what stuff doesn't need to be changed, stuff they did right, stuff they did wrong. In general, I'm just going to talk about it. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm here to do. At least that's what I think I'm here to do. If I'm not here to do that, well, then I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. And I'm also going to touch upon Chi back cover. Is it Chi, or is it Ki, or is it Kai? Kai, Ki, Chi, Chai. I don't fucking know. I'll just call it Chi because I'm used to calling it that. Brief thoughts on Dream Drop Distance and Chi back cover, and by brief I mean I'll talk about them for like 40 minutes and then spend the next 20 hours talking about 0.2 and analyzing essentially what is a 2-hour demo with 2 hours of cutscenes. So Dream Drop Distance HD is the first one we'll talk about, since it is the game that is, let's be honest here, carrying this collection. And I understand that this is a very minor point, but one thing I do appreciate is that Dream Drop Distance is at the center of the cover. I understand that's like, Cody, why does that really fucking matter? But hear me out. Save your death threats. Save your death threats, because the reason I'm saying this is because, let's be honest here, Dream Drop Distance is really the only game on this collection. Not to say 0.2 isn't a game, but it's a demo of a game that has yet to release. Like with Dream Drop Distance, it's an actual like full RPG that takes like 20 to 30 hours to beat. Most likely 30 on your first time, 20 maybe if you're a little better, or if you suck like me, maybe it's like 30 to 35 hours because you grind a lot to beat Young Xehanort, even though you're playing on standard mode. Seriously, fuck Young Xehanort, he's annoying. But Dream Drop Distance is really the only game here. So because of that, I'm glad they sort of kept it at the centerpiece and didn't lie to us. I'm glad they didn't push it as the main thing in this collection. It's another added bonus that you get with essentially Dream Drop Distance HD. However, thus comes one of the biggest issues with this collection, which I'll talk about near the end. But with Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance HD, there were a few things that were changed. So let's go over my thoughts on the 3DS game very quickly, and by very quickly I mean spend 10 minutes on it. So, my main opinions on Dream Drop Distance were, when I first played it, I enjoyed it. I have my issues with the story, specifically its use of time travel, because it made no fucking sense. I didn't get what the sleeping worlds were. Like, the story, I felt, added so many things to the universe, but didn't explain them well. It added an element of time travel, which I know time travel has been in Kingdom Hearts 2 for a little bit, but it was done differently. So apparently there are multiple forms of time travel. Thing is though, like, Dream Drop Distance's form of time travel made absolutely no sense. I'm not going to spoil it because they explain it near the end, so I'll just let you guys play the game. I'll talk more about the stuff I didn't like about Dream Drop Distance's story when I actually talk about the game, because then I'll have to write notes about it. But I had issues with its story. I felt it had quite a number of exposition and plot dumps, specifically near the end with Sora's story, considering that this is more of Riku's game. I did enjoy some parts of the story though. Even though the time travel wasn't pulled off well, some of the scenarios were pretty cool. It was cool to see the Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Three Musketeers, and how all these worlds sort of connect to how Mickey became the king, and how he became the Keyblade Master that he is in Kingdom Hearts as of right now. So it was kind of cool to see the king in his youth, at multiple points in time. So that was pretty unique. I also like to see some of the worlds. I especially enjoyed the Tron Legacy world, even though I had my issues with its story. I did enjoy some of the worlds. In fact, the worlds were actually really good in DDD. Another thing I also enjoyed was that it was more of Riku's game, because Riku didn't really get that much character development in my opinion. So because of that, I'm glad they sort of finished with his character, though I will be honest, one of my bigger issues with the game's story is Sora. Sora, I felt, was way too stupid in that game. And look, I understand Sora ain't exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. He's not. He's not very smart. I get that. But I found him more ditzy than stupid. Like, rock stupid. Like, he's like worse than Naruto in terms of intelligence. Hoping they fix that, but unfortunately, in 0.2, there is one secret cutscene with Sora. I'm not going to spoil anything about it. even though it's like the game's like months old at this point, so you've most likely seen it. But overall, I'm not really digging how they're portraying Sora. I'm hoping they fix it in 3, or maybe do something. And another thing I also have an issue with the Sora is Haley Joel Osment, because I understand he's the original voice of Sora. He voiced him in KH1, KH2, and pretty much every other game, and I thought he sounded great in those games. But he sounds way too old to be playing the character now, and Sora is still the same age that he was in KH2. He's like 15, maybe 16 by the time of KH3, but it's still gonna be like a 30-year-old man playing a teenager, and it's still awkward. It's like one of those things where you see like, oh, Andrew Garfield is playing Peter Parker in high school, even though he looks like a 30-year-old. It's like, why? Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance was a good game with a lot of problems. Now, this is mostly because of the fact that it was developed by the people who made Birth by Sleep, who are also working on KH3 right now. The Square Enix Osaka team. The Osaka team is what people mostly refer to them as. I don't quite know the full name, so if I'm saying the full name wrong, I apologize for my ignorance. I started playing the series like literally like a year ago, a little over a year ago, so I'm not the most well versed in the series, even though I've played a number of the games since then. Because of this, DDD had a lot of the same issues, used the exact same engine, and apparently was the quickest developed Kingdom Hearts game. And honestly, considering the result, that makes a lot of sense. One of my problems with Dream Drop Distance was its combat, mostly because I felt that a lot of the commands, because one of the thing with Dream Drop Distance is that it uses the command deck system. What the command deck system is that in the original Kingdom Hearts games, which 0.2 actually goes back to, you had a list of spells that you could put that were on a magic menu. You could have a shortcut menu so you could actually access those magic commands quickly. And you had MP. If you use a spell, it uses a certain amount of MP. Use all of your MP, the MP has to slowly restore. And that was how the magic system worked in that game. In the handheld, specifically Recoded, BBS, and DDD, all of those don't do that. They don't use any magic points or MP. Instead, they use something different known as the command deck system. The command deck system is essentially you can customize a list of abilities that you have and cycle between them. So it was like, okay, I want the basic spells, Thundaga, Firaga, Blizzaga, Curaga, simple stuff like that. But I also want to have a couple of others. You can hold up to 8, so I want a High Potion, I want Fire Windmill, where I can literally just spin my Keyblade around and charge at the enemy, Ars Arcanum, which takes 2 slots, and I can just literally slash up the enemy as Sora, and stuff like that. It also is a thing that you use with your movement commands as well, like dodge rolling is a command, jumping is a command. Yes, jumping is a command. If you've played the games, you know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, that's essentially how it works. You cycle between your commands in the mini menu, and that's how you pull off attacks, like magic attacks. Yes, they are separated, and that's how you can actually do stuff like guarding and dodge rolling, and that's how the command deck system works. And I like the command deck system in BBS and Recoded, though Recoded had other problems. But BBS, I liked it the most because it had over like 500 commands, and even though BBS has problems with its combat, the command deck system I thought was alright for that game because it had a lot of attacks to choose from. With Dream Drop Distance, it was very limited. It definitely, I can tell you right now, it doesn't feel like they have over 500 commands. More like maybe over 200, and that may be it. I'm not sure. I could be completely wrong. I don't know how many commands there are in total in the 3DS version. I don't know if they added any for the HD version. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like there's that many. And the combat feels a bit limited compared to the other games because of that. Not to mention a lot of the attacks just kind of suck, except for a couple. Most of the best attacks you get near the end of the game, but there is one type of attack, and I'm sure you've all heard of this one, a type of magic attack that is really good. It's the best in the game. It's broken as fuck, and not to mention, if you use this attack, you pretty much have no reason to use any of the other commands. I used the other commands because I actually want to have fun, kind of, but I will admit that this command is insanely overpowered. it's the Balloon set of spells. Balloon, Balloon Ra, and Balloon Ga. Specifically Balloon Ra. Balloon Ra is the best out of all of them. Yes, even better than Balloon Ga, surprisingly. But Balloon Ra is ridiculously overpowered, so much that it makes mincemeat of some of the hardest bosses in the game. It's the best attack option, it's the safest one, and that's another issue with DDD is balance. It's not quite as bad as BBS, if only because Balloon Ra is really the only really broken set of spells. Like, the balloon spells are really the only really bad broken set of spells. But BBS was really bad with this, but honestly I found it more fun because they just had more to offer. With DDD it was just much more limited, so really it made me use Balloon Ra a lot in my first playthrough, and in my second one especially, I just spammed Balloon Ra because it was the best attack in the game. And a lot of the problems that BBS had carried over to DDD. Regardless though, I still did have fun with the game. I still thought the worlds were actually really good. That was probably the saving grace for Dream Drop Distance. I probably wouldn't have liked the game if it weren't for two things. One, the worlds. The worlds were some of my favorites in the entire series. They were much bigger than they were in other games, and there was much more exploration than there were in the other games. Not to mention another thing, and this is the reason why the worlds were made bigger, flow motion. Flow motion was so much fun to fool around with. Combat-wise, I think they could do a little more with it. Maybe Kingdom Hearts 3 will fix that. I'm 99% sure of that, at this point anyway. But regardless, flow motion was really fun to mess around with. I enjoyed just flying around the stage. You know all of the crazy shit you can do in KH2 by the end of the game? It's pretty much that through the entire game, and that's what made flow motion really fun for me. And it made exploring for treasure also really fun and satisfying. So that was sort of the saving grace, but I didn't really like the combat. Even though I thought it was still fun enough, you definitely felt the struggle of BBS a lot more so, because there was just, it felt a lot more limited than other games in the series, especially BBS, because, well, Birth by Sleep just had more to offer in terms of its combat, which I know is weird saying, considering some of its problems. Again, another video, but regardless, Dream Drop Distance, one other issue I did have was the Dream Eaters, the partner system. Now, Dream Eaters were the main enemies of the games, and I had problems with them as both enemies and as partners, as there are actually good Dream Eaters that exist and will help you throughout the adventure. Dream Eaters, when they're enemies, I hate them. In fact, I go out and say that they're probably the worst set of enemies in KH. For one thing, I think their designs are bland as shit. Like, they're really bad. I honestly do not think so. Like, there are a few of the designs that are okay. Like, there are some, like, I think there's, like, one that's an eagle. I know for a fact there's one that's, like, a dragon, the Ryu dragon. That one looks really cool. I think that the elephant that can actually bring up a surfboard, it's a weird-ass design, and it attacks in the weirdest way possible, but it looks really cool. So there are a few Dream Eaters near the end of the game that I really enjoy, but most of the designs are not very good. But it's not just the designs that bother me, it's the attacks, which thankfully the HD version actually fixes, sort of. They just attack way too rapidly, and because of that, you can get ganged up on really easily. It doesn't happen as much in the HD version, but it can still happen at times. Another thing I absolutely despise is that not only can you get, like, dazed, which is pretty much random, and that also appears in 0.2, but I'll talk about it more there. But another thing that I also hate is that they don't stagger. This is something that happened in Birth by Sleep with boss fights. How boss fights, whenever you hit them, they just do not seem to stagger. They seem to not be affected by any of your Keyblade attacks. Now enemies don't do it, because, you know, it was great for boss fights, so why not do it for enemies? Brings more challenge, right? No, it's a terrible design choice. Even Birth by Sleep had enemies stagger, and that was a dumbass change, and I was hoping they fixed it for the HD version, but they didn't. So that was really stupid. Among that, you know, there was a bit of frame rate issues on the 3DS version. The camera, I think, was a bit too zoomed in, and the control scheme was weird because it was on the 3DS. And as for the good Dream Eaters, Oh god. The Dream Eater system is pretty much how you get abilities, commands, and, well, actually I should just say abilities and a few commands, because really abilities are what you're gonna try and get from these guys, specifically permanent abilities. Yes, abilities are not permanent, not all of them anyway. There are 3 types of abilities like Birth by Sleep. There are purple abilities, which are essentially abilities that can help you with Dream Eaters. There are red ones, which help you with basic combat stuff, like combo pluses, which extend your combo. So instead of mashing the X button 3 times, you can mash it 4, 5, or 6 times. Riveting. And you also have blue abilities, which are temporary abilities that you can only get from spirits. So you have to have a spirit in order to keep that ability. Like, for example, for example, I believe one of them, Defender, I know is one of them. Say I have a spirit that has the ability Defender. If I take that spirit out of my party and put it back in the Pokemon box, I guess, since they're Pokemon, they're essentially Sora and Riku's Pokemon. If I take the spirit out and replace it with another, I lose Defender, but I gain the other abilities that I got from that spirit. Not to mention you have to gain link points in order to unlock the abilities as well. This may not sound like a bad idea, and it isn't, but this makes Dream Drop Distance very grind happy. You will have to grind near the end of the game because you're going to be missing abilities like Second Chance and Once More, and you're going to want to get those. Those are 2 permanent abilities that you want to get. You should always have them in Kingdom Hearts. So because of that, you will pretty much have to grind in order to... you're going to have to grind spirits, and you're going to have to look up a guide to find out what spirits they're from, too. Thankfully, they are in multiple spirits, so that's kind of nice. But regardless... It's a terrible design choice, and honestly, it bothered the hell out of me, and it was something I really noticed in my second playthrough, because since I knew how to play the game, I knew what strategies I was supposed to use, but unfortunately, in order to get those, I had to grind quite a bit throughout the game. So that was really, really obnoxious, and so yeah, my opinions on Dream Drop Distance were very mixed. I still thought it was a good game, but I could never stretch myself to say it was a great game. It had serious issues. But I will say that I think what kept it good for me was, again, the world choices were really good, and the flow motion and the world's designs were really, really fun. And that's sort of what kept it for me. In fact, I'll go as far as to say I think Dream Drop Distance has some of the best worlds to explore in the series. Like the Fantasia world, Tron Legacy's world, and the world that never was. Those 3 worlds from DDD are probably some of my favorites in the series, and that's really good for a game that has very few worlds. As for the HD version, for what it fixes and what it adds, well, that's where I was sort of disappointed by, because it doesn't really do much to fix the problems of Dream Drop Distance. In fact, some would argue it doesn't really fix anything at all. It did fix my issue with the enemies, kind of, as they attack less frequently, which makes it a lot easier, in my opinion. It makes killing enemies a lot more manageable, because you're not getting hit by like 50 different Dream Eaters, which I know is exaggerating, but regardless, it's still annoying. And I like that, but nothing was really changed in terms of the balance. Nothing was really changed in terms of grinding. The menu system was changed, and playing with the PS4 controller is really, it's so much better than playing with a 3DS. So the control scheme and interface was cleaned up quite a bit, so that was nice. Though I think the menu system for the Dream Eaters was worse than in the 3DS version, because you're going to be navigating menus a lot. Because you don't have the dual screens, which makes it a little easier to manage, which is unfortunate, but that's a consequence of not having 2 screens and being on the PS4. But overall, it felt much better on the PS4 than it did on the 3DS, which makes it the recommendable version. Thankfully, there are a few things that I did enjoy about it. For one thing, it's in 60 frames per second, and it was really weird playing Dream Drop Distance, any Kingdom Hearts game actually, in 60 frames per second, but I got used to it very quickly, and it was really fun the entire way through, because it actually makes me really excited for 1.5 and 2.5 on the PS4, since those versions are actually going to be in 60 frames per second, and that's going to be amazing to play Kingdom Hearts 2 and 1 in 60 frames per second. I really cannot wait for that collection. In fact, it's weird to say I'm more excited for that than I am for this. Dream Drop Distance, playing Dream Drop Distance in 60 frames per second really makes me excited for that collection, and it was really good to play in 60 frames per second. The game looks gorgeous in HD. I already thought that Dream Drop Distance was the best looking game in the series, just from like in terms of like animations and graphics, and even though you can tell this was a handheld game at one point, it still looks really damn good. I'm really impressed, and they didn't really upgrade any of the models or textures at all. These are all the same from the 3DS game, but they look surprisingly decent in HD. They of course touched up the resolution quite a bit. The models don't look as jaggy as they did because it was on the 3DS. It's not really the fault of the game. And I already thought DDD looked great for the 3DS, but it looks really good. And in 60 frames per second, again, I have to go back to this, it looks and runs amazing. Unlike the 3DS version, which had quite a number of frame rate issues, especially when using some of the more flashy commands, Dream Drop Distance on the PS4 runs so smoothly, and the load times are very, very minor, so that's really, really awesome. And also the camera was zoomed back a bit so you can see more of what's going on, which makes the game not only look better and look cleaner and nicer, and cleans up the interface quite a bit, but it's also good because it means the camera is nowhere near as much of an issue. So despite my grievances with Dream Drop Distance, this version of the game is the best version to own, and while it did, unfortunately playing it again did make me notice some of the issues I had with Dream Drop Distance initially, I enjoyed playing it again, if only for the added 60 frames per second. Can I see myself playing Dream Drop Distance again anytime soon? No, not really, I'm gonna be honest. But for what it was, I had fun. I acknowledge Dream Drop Distance's problems. I'll go more into them when I actually make a video. It's really hard to because I really want to talk about 0.2 and Chi back cover, which we will do now.